One, he was tall. His physique was insane. I'm telling you, his skin was as chocolatey and velvet as they come, honey. When I tell you delectable, eat it up, honey, you already know.
I'm like, something's not right here. Something in my spirit is just jumping up and dancing and she's not excited.
Y'all, I need y'all to help me try to find and locate this stuff. I'm like, this is where he works. This is his name. I need backup. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know what I'm about to find.
Okay, so by the title, you already know this is going to be a big key, okay? One,
y'all are not going to come for me.
This is all too common, and I know that this happens for so many people, and I just want to speak to like my younger audience, even my older audience, just everybody. I want to speak to y'all. You can never underestimate your ability to vet someone. It's all about looking at everything, not just looking at the parts of them that you love so much that allows you to like be blind to everything else. I'm talking about really open your eyes, see the person for who they are, and don't try to create scenarios in your head so that you can stay in a situation longer. Once you know what it is, I think the best thing to do is to step. Okay, so this is going to be a very interesting, like, you know, girl talk story time about a very interesting phase in my life. And honey, when I tell you I was having a good time, oof, we just got to get all into it. So I believe this was like in 2014. I was like maybe 22, 23, 24. Girl, I can't do the math right now, but you know. And it was about spring and summer. And so I had recently started a new job, new money, sis. I was around people who were making money, and I was being exposed to like what the world really has to offer. And you know, when you get into that type of setting, you realize like sometimes you create that sort of like glass ceiling for yourself. It's like, I thought this was good, but there's so much better out there. And so just keep that in mind as we're moving through. And so, you know, my whole walk was different. My, you know, I was glowing. I was just really happy. And you know, recently broke up with someone.
And I was like, you know what? You're not going to hold me down.
So I had like a whole new like mind frame. So one day, I was coming home. I was on my way home from work, and I saw this man. Now, one thing I'm gonna say, if you watched Why I Lied to Men, if you watched that video, I talk about how like, you know, these men be lingering in the background. It's like, I don't know why they have that approach where they linger. I guess they're trying to fill out your temperament, but this MF, let me tell you, sis, he was lingering on the sidelines, and I definitely noticed him because one, he was tall. His physique was insane. I'm telling you, his skin was as chocolatey and velvet as they come, honey. When I tell you delectable, eat it up, honey, you already know. To my boys and girls out there, if you've ever had an interest in someone who's like super chocolatey and just like gorgeous, and it's just like, you know what I'm saying? If you ever had your heart broken by a little chocolate dud, definitely beat me in the comments. We could cry together, but we're going to heal together because there's a message in all of this. So basically, like I was saying, he was tall. His physique was insane, muscular build. And when I tell you I love arms, y'all know me. If you know anything about me, I love a nice little big tone, bulky arm. And he had all of that. And he was in his work attire. So, you know, it was sharp, clean lines, caught me, got me together. And he had, you know, the little beard gang, you already know. I didn't even know I love beards the way that I do. But, you know, the way that he was so well groomed, it was appeasing to the eye, and I could not. So I'm noticing all of this about him as he's lingering in the background, and I'm like, yes, I'm making, you know, a bit of eye contact, but I don't want to be too direct. I'm being discreet, but I am, you know, checking out the scene with the eye because
I do like to play a little bit coy. I think that can be a little cute if you play your cards right. So anyway. So
he ends up coming to talk to me, and he's literally like, so how are you doing? Okay, now, you know, for me, I get a little bit weak. I am very shy. So, you know, playing coy comes easy to me, but also I have to learn how to like operate outside of that. So you got to be quick on your feet, sis. So he's like, how are you doing? He was like, you look so beautiful. Granted, you're not going to give me with that whole cute thing because, you know, your friend could be cute. You know, your daughter could be cute, you know, not me. Y'all, I'm sweating. He starts to speak to me. He's like, hey, how are you? He was like, you're very beautiful. I said to myself, okay, well, since he has, you know, great vision, we can continue this conversation. So again, I'm very shy, and I was like, well, thank you. And I don't ever assume that it's going to be more than that. So you know me, I take the compliment and I go, I say, thank you very much. And he was like, so how are you doing? Are you coming from work? And I'm like, you know, men always trying to gauge a situation. You know what I'm saying? So again, ladies, stay very quick on your feet. And granted, the way that I looked, honey, you know, man, corporate, but very girly, very like feminine, very, you know, just a feminine touch to me. So I was like, yes, I'm coming from work. And so I think at that time he probably asked, like, do you work in a particular section? And I'm like, yes, I do. And maybe that like put like bells in his head. I don't know what happened. But anyway, he was like, you know, I don't want to stop talking to you. I'm like, okay, well, you know what, you paid it, and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I'm here. Okay, I'm here. So he basically says in so many words, he's like, I don't want to stop talking to you. He's like, I enjoy looking at you. I want to talk to you. And so I didn't know. I'm like, I'm on my way back. I'm on my way home from work. So I'm like, I don't know if I'll see him again. I don't know if this route will even like apply. So I was just like, you know what? Here's my number. So I gave him my number, short, sweet, and to the point. He was like, you know what, I'm gonna text you. He texted me shortly thereafter. I really feel like men would make sure that you're not playing them with the numbers. And this was back in like 2013, 2014. So sis, it's about the same thing. So he had that energy. I'm gonna text you right then. And he texted me and he got my number. And I said, well, now you have my number. And so he said, I would love to talk to you. I said, well, you know, call me. We'll see what can happen. I don't ever like try to be too like over zealous or like hype, because again, don't hype these dudes' heads up, because it's just ultimately it's not worth it. So we end up parting ways, and I'm like, I'm glad I didn't, like looking back on it, I'm glad I didn't pay him too much time or divulge too much information at that point, because I'm like, I need to make it so that he invests his time in getting to know me, because that's really important. When I finally get home, he texts me, and so it's a back and forth, and he's like, you know, so when can I take you out? I wish I had the text messages, but that's about several phones ago, because I'm terrible with phones. But he was like, when can I see you? So when he asked me, when can I see you? I'm like, okay, so giving you guys a little bit of a backstory, like sis, I had just started dating guys that were slightly older than me, and I had just, you know, started getting into the mind frame of dating men who can actually provide and do things for me. And that was like shortly, like towards the end of my college career. I'm very glad I did that, because it's to let you know, like, sis, it's very much possible. You just have to put yourself around people who can do those things for you. So, you know, he's like asking all the right questions, getting straight to it. Like, I want to take you out, you know, I have this beautiful place in mind. He's like, what places are you thinking of? And I'm like, I gave a few places. And so I'm like, you know what, at this time I was eating meat, so I'm like, a nice little seafood joint might be cute. Let's figure it out. You know, we end up solidifying the date. We sealed the time, the date, everything. He said he had a surprise. I said, you know what, I'm gonna trust him. Now, this man was older than me. So at this time, again, I said I was like 23, 24. And so I believe that he was 31 or 32. Granted, I'm just, you know what I'm saying? This is new to me, dating someone this much older than I am. So I'm like, you know what? I'm about to play it like I know what I'm doing, because you know what, at the end of the day, I know what I'm doing, even though I don't. And he's like, so how old are you? And I just straight up told him, I was like, I'm 23. Now, I'm gonna just tell you the truth. I really feel like, you know, during that text conversation, because this was a text thread leading up to the date, he was like, you know, you do look a little young. He was like, are you okay with my age? I'm like, you know, I appreciate him asking, because you should never assume. I mean, I was okay to talk to him. I asked him, so one of the things that I remember asking him after learning his age, because he is a little bit older than me, and I knew what could potentially come with that age, children. And I asked him straight up, I was like, do you have children? He said, yes, I do. And I was like, okay, you know what I'm saying? So like, what's your story? Like, are you a single? Like, do they stay with you? Or, you know, like, and this again is like an exchange through text, which I should have definitely moved it to the phone. But again, my inexperience, you know, speaking out, tapping out. Again, I was young, sis. Okay, but anyway. So then he tells me he just has one son, and he said he works with the mother. He's not with the mother. He works with her to just maintain a relationship where they can raise their child. And I'm like, okay, cool. So one thing about me, I love text messages in that there's a record. There's a record of everything that you're saying, everything that we agree to. And you know what I'm saying? To deviate from that, you know, that's either omission or, you know what I'm saying, you have your own separate agenda. But I was very clear in that I wanted to go on this date. I wanted to get to know him, and I did inquire about his children, and he was forthcoming about information about the relationship between the child, the mother of his child, and, you know, his son. So anyway, sis. And oh, I don't know if I mentioned this. He's African. I don't know if that means anything, but we'll discuss more. Okay, so it's the night of the date where we're supposed to go out, and I am hyped. I am very excited because, again, he is so fine, and I'm like, he was so well dressed. He smelled good. He looked fantastic. He was like everything I wanted. You know what I'm saying? And like, is that an indicator that it's too good to be true? Drop it in the comments and help get me together. But anyway, this was 23-year-old me, so keep that in mind. So it's the night that we are supposed to go out on the date. He is communicating as normal. He is checking in. He, you know, I wasn't too crazy about text. Like, I didn't want to have the expectation of you should text me like and respond in 5 minutes. That was never my energy because, one, I was working, I was busy. I was also still managing my YouTube channel. So I had a lot going on, and I still also was, you know, I want to do a hood rat shit with my friends. So it's like, it worked out perfectly. I was not on him and he was not on me. And I appreciated that we gave each other space. So the night of the date, he's like, you know, I'm going to pick you up at such and such time. Now, it was a little bit later. At this point, I had no problem with it because I think it was like a Friday or a Saturday. And I'm like, I actually prefer it. And where he, you know, intended to take us, it was overlooking the water. So I'm like, you know what? I don't got no problems. You done set the scene. It sounds good. And when he came to pick me up, I mean, everything was so beautiful. The music playing in the car. He had like lights on. He had a truck. So it was like a big ass truck, and everything was just beautiful. Like, coming, opening the door, asking, how are you doing? He even bought me a little, like, you know, chocolates for the first little date. I'm telling you, very attentive. Like, even though I wasn't like overly, you know, communicating or like being over or trying to like overwhelm him, I feel like he did a really good job of like courting me, because it's clear like he wanted us to interact. So basically, he picks me up, sets the scene in the car. The drive there is everything. He's like, you know, you look beautiful. I'm like, tell me something I don't know, period. But if I could just be honest. So we're on our way to the restaurant, and the conversation is great. And he's just like, you know, engaging me. We're talking, and it's more superficial because I wanted to save kind of the bulk of the conversation for when we sat down at dinner. And so when we finally pull up, because of his work, he had access to a certain part of a certain lot. I'm trying not to say too much without giving it away. So he parked us in like this really secluded, but you had to have like a certain ID or you had to have the passcode to get in. So then when we finally go to get to dinner, I'm like, okay, he really took me to a nice ass restaurant. But when we walked in, I want to let you know, as soon as we walked in, I realized that I feel like he knew the hostess at the restaurant. It's like, I don't know why this was playing in my head, but I felt like he had done this before. Like, this woman had seen him before with another woman. I don't know, like, in my heart of hearts, like, that's just how it felt. She was like, hey, like, you know, it was like, because the hostess was like a little too warm for someone who you know, was just seeing, you know, a customer for the first time. So it was kind of throwing me. So I'm like, I noted that. And she wasn't black. She was like racially ambiguous, or like, if I can remember, kind of like white. So we get down, she seats us at the table. And when I tell you, the restaurant, it blew me away. When I tell you he did not go cheap, he did not go cheap whatsoever. And so he definitely made a strong impression on me, and his conversation was great. But the one thing I will say that I remember about this date, he was all about the liquid courage, and he was kind of throwing him back himself. And he was encouraging me. He's like, if you want more, he was like, if you want anything, he was like, if you want more drinks, if you want more food, just know that you can have it. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to drink a lot on this day, because again, he came to pick me up, and if anything happens, I need to stay in the clear. So I had one drink with, you know, at the start, like with the appetizers, and then I think I had another one towards the end, like at the midpoint of the dinner entree. So I'm like, okay, boom, boom, boom. So his posture kind of started to change because I guess like it wasn't that he was drinking, like throwing him back, because again, he's a very like he's a larger man, he's a tall build, so I'm sure he could handle these little cocktails that we were having. But we spent enough time in the restaurants where like we would be good. But he literally, it's like he became a lot more relaxed. And so I'm paying attention to his body language and I'm really trying to hone in. And then I noticed that he's looking at the hostess. And again,
I'm like, something's not right here. Something in my spirit is just jumping up and dancing and she's not excited.
So I'm like, keep that in the back of your mind, because is this something that you were noticing and your intuition is trying to speak to you? So ultimately the date was awesome. I had an amazing time again being out with him and like seeing what he was willing to do. This, you know, beautiful, nice restaurant overlooking the water. Like when I tell you everything about it was just beautiful, I'm like, honey, I can't complain. So when it was time to go back home, you know, we're driving, you know, again, we did kiss. I'm not even gonna hold you, sis, because one thing about him, he had, I mean, and I don't know how I missed this, he has some succulent, juicy, just big lips, honey. When I tell you, like, when he kissed me, it just took my whole mouth away, you know what I'm saying? And to me, that's fine. But moving along, so you know, ride back, you know, I did loosen up, he did loosen up. He was not being pushy, but he definitely was being forward in that he was attracted to me. He thinks I'm beautiful. And you know, we did kiss maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know what I'm saying, however many times we decided to kiss. I'm grown, you know what I'm saying? And so the conversation is going well. He's like holding my hand as he's driving, you know, all this cute little stuff. So anyway, we get back, he drops me off. Now remember, y'all know I got kicked out, right? So I had my own place, right? I told y'all I was looking for my place so I could move, right? And so I'm still going home to my sister's crib. Okay, that's where I was staying when my mother had kicked me out. So, you know, when he asked, he was like, you know, can I come upstairs? I'm like, no, bitch. Like, no, you can't do that. You cannot come upstairs. I'm like, no, I didn't want to say like, oh, I'm living with my sister. I just said, oh no, that wouldn't be good right now. I was like, I don't want to, you know, I want to do that. I'm enjoying this. And, you know, let's just, let's end it here for the night. And again, when you're dealing with anyone, you have to be very firm on your boundaries. And one of the things that I know that was probably like reading, when he was kissing me, I know I was melting. And that's like, you know, I'm trying to work on my, you know what I'm saying? But his lips were giving like juicy, succulent, sexy girl. And it was chocolatey and it was just, so anyway, after that date, trust me, he was so on it. Like he was, did you get in? He's like, how are you doing? I wish you a good night. Good morning, beautiful. All this other stuff. He would call me and he would sing. He could sing and he could play instruments and he would play every last instrument. Like, so it really started to like help me see there's a bit of an emotional connection here. Like, because it was just, he was doing a little bit more. And so I'm like, there's a time investment and there's an emotional investment. And I knew that something was a little bit like, he was a little bit more invested. Whenever I wanted something, I said I was hungry. He was bringing food. He would come over at the drop of a dime. Like, again, this was towards either the end of the workday or this was like anytime towards the weekend, because again, we were both working. And I don't want to, you know, make it seem like it was always us getting, you know, together late. That was never the case. Because when I wanted food, when I mentioned I was hungry, he would come pick me up and we would go get something to eat. Like, it was very much, he was, you know, upholding his end of the deal, and everything that the standards that I had for the men that I was dating at that time, he upheld them. And so I had no problem. And so I noticed that when he would call me and he would be singing songs, he would be like, you know, I wrote this song about you. Now this is not the first time that a dude has ever wrote a song about me. I don't know what it is, but I have been around men who are like musically inclined, and so I've had songs written about me. I've had, you know, dudes play songs with instruments, like, so I just felt like, again, this was a bit more of an emotional connection. And for me, I was still kind of nervous because, again, I'm keeping in mind that he has a child and I don't know how I would fare with that, because again, 23 and like a child, and I don't want to overstep. I didn't even know how to kind of facilitate that relationship, but he never pushed that on me. But so Again, we had another night out. He just wanted to see me. That's how he put it. He was like, you know what, I'm getting off work. He was like, I just want to see you. So he called me and I was busy doing something, so I didn't get his call. So I call him back. He's like, you know, I really want to see you. He was like, I'm downstairs. And so I'm like, okay, boom, no problem. I come downstairs, but I didn't come in a way where he could see me as I was coming downstairs. Now this is where the shit heats up. So I came downstairs in a way that he couldn't see me. And as I'm on my way to his truck, his big ass truck, okay, I opened up the door, got in the car, and he threw his phone to the back of the truck. Now I'm like, in that time, I was able to see that he was on Facebook, okay? Now this is something that, stick with me as I do this. So I'm like, that's really weird. I'm like, you know what? Let's start looking at these patterns. Like, you know, is he asking to see me a little bit later? Are there things I need to be like, you know, taking note of, mental noting? Because again, it's not looking right, because that was suspicious. You throwing your phone as soon as I got into the truck because you didn't see me. I didn't walk around the front of the truck. I walked around the back of the truck, which kind of tripped you up. So again, once I saw that he had Facebook, I remembered what he told me he did for work. I'm not going to mention that because that would just, he told me what he did for work, right? So the crazy thing is, and this is why I say there are very little degrees of separation between you and the next person. Where he worked, a guy that I used to talk to, his father worked at the same company. So I said, if I know that this man that I'm dating has Facebook, I can check and see if he's friends with this, you know, the father of the dude that I used to talk to. And I'm like, let's do it. So we're going to call him, we didn't give him a name so late in the game. We're going to call him Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe was on, so Zimbabwe happened to be a friend of the father of the dude that I used to date, right? Or talk to, right? I'm going through the friend list. I'm like, okay, let me type in his name because, you know, I'm like, let me just type in his name. He has a unique name, so I'm going to find it, right? I had to call back up. I'm like,
y'all, I need y'all to help me try to find and locate this stuff. I'm like, this is where he works. This is his name. I need backup. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know what I'm about to find.
So we all on the phone. We on Facebook. We looking through the friends group, typing in the names, and then it comes up. So basically, let me tell you what I saw. He was on Facebook. He had a picture of his family. He had a picture of himself playing an instrument in church. He had his Facebook relationship status as married. And I did some investigating on the wife, you know, the wife of his, because I found out again he's married. And the wife was in the neighboring town that he would come pick me up from. The neighboring town. So basically what I'm saying to you is, first of all, for him to ever put me in a position where like we are, you know, I'm in such a close proximity to his wife. Like, what if she were to see something, get the wrong idea, thinking that I'm okay with dating a married man, which is the furthest thing from the truth. But once I did that investigative work, I'm like, and so here's the thing. I held it down. Of course, there was no sexual activity between him and myself, and so I didn't feel any type of way. But it made me think about the fact that when he would come over sometimes, he would ask, like, you know, can I come upstairs? Like, after he would like kiss me and just make me melt. I'm like, you know what? No, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't want to do that. Let's not do that right now. So I did pay attention to that, and I'm so glad that I never allowed the relationship to get physical to that degree, because it could have been very, very messy. And so when I saw the picture of him and his family, when I saw the picture of his wife and how she seemed so happy, she had pictures of him, she had recently posted things about him, I'm like, she has no idea what this man is doing. And the way we so like casually met, like literally I was on my way home from work. I'm like, if it's this easy for him to, you know, try to, you know, talk to a woman, you know, imagine it may not just be me. And that's the truth. It wasn't just me. It was his wife, it was myself, and it was probably other women that I don't know about. And so the thing is, I don't beat myself up about it, because once I found that out, he was gone. I completely removed his number. I didn't speak to him, and the whole, like, again, he was so fine, but you know what I'm saying? You got to keep everything in perspective, and it's not worth it for me. I don't want nobody else's stuff. And I think men take a lot of liberties, you know, trying to dabble in each and every type of woman that they encounter, or they want to interact with any woman that they encounter, because it feeds their ego. And you got to keep that in mind. Men are really out here looking for an emotional investment, emotional attachment, especially if it's lacking in their marriage. And they also sometimes they are looking for, I guess, something that they believe their partner doesn't have. I don't know, like the way he was writing these songs, the way he was singing to me, I'm like, there's a lot more to this. And again, my mind couldn't unpack it. And you know, the more mature me is realizing that there was an emotional connection there for him. And it grew, especially because, you know, he invested time, he invested resources, he invested his money, but I was not giving out no A's, okay? And so I think it made him hold me in a different regard. I'm not going to say a higher regard, but in a different regard. While some women may not know that their partner is like stepping out on them, there are some who I believe know that their partner is not at all being faithful. And so it wouldn't be surprising to me if she knew, but literally the fact that when he threw his phone in the back of that truck, I said, I'm not supposed to be here. And I knew as soon as I saw that, I'm like, this is not for me, and I would never want to be a secret. And you, like, sis, this ain't secret worthy, okay? Far from it. I got out of that, and we ended up seeing each other later down the line, and he talked to me as if nothing happened. And he wanted to like clear everything up, like, you know what, my son is well, and you know what, I'm no longer with this person. And I'm like, you can say all of the things that you want, but I already saw a part of your character, and you know what you showed me, you wanted that to be who you really were, and I'm not going to recreate who you said you are. I don't want to take the parts of you that I like so that I can blindly like dismiss or like blatantly dismiss everything about you that is wrong, those red flags that are coming out. I'm like, no. I'm like, you know what, I'm glad you're well, I'm glad your family's well, but this is not for me. And he happened to see me out when I was with one of my friends, and she was like, girl, but he is fine. And I'm like, girl, but no, he plays games, and I don't want that. And regardless of whether he, you know, really moved on from his marriage, his character is in question, and I don't want that. If anything, if I see him again ever later in life, because honey, hey, you know what I'm saying? If I ever see him later on in life, you know, it would just be about getting to the bag, and that's it. I'm not about to be out here trying to invest when I already know that your character is trash, and you have the potential to have absolutely no commitment to your partner, to your marriage, to your family unit, to your child. That says so much to me. And so again, always be perceptive, always, you know, understand that even though you can be dating with a purpose, you're going to run into people who want to omit the truth. They don't want to tell you everything about them, only the things that they think that you will, you know, kind of hold on to, and it'll make you like them more. Don't say less about what it is that you like, say more about them, regurgitate whatever it is that they're saying. Again, because men will tell you exactly who they are, and they will also, because, you know, they're not really hard to figure out, they're going to show you exactly who they are. So give them time. Again, like I said, him throwing that phone in the back of the truck when I got in the car, he didn't want me to see his Facebook. He didn't want me to see what his name was on Facebook, because ultimately that confirms, you know, again, where he worked. He was honest about that. And also, his family unit, he was not honest about that. Again, him loving music and being very much into the church, whatever. But that's my story, and I was very young. I was 20, about, like I said, 23, I believe, and it was a learning experience. And again, let's start to put some of that accountability, that ownership on men, because they have I feel like in many cases, women sometimes excuse their behavior. They try to justify it. They blame themselves for the way that their husband or their partner has been acting or stepping out. And it's not you, sis. It's not you, it's them. And men can only sometimes be as faithful as their options. So I hope that everyone moving forward vet whoever it is you're dealing with, and never keep in mind someone's ability to be deceiving. Like, he was deceitful and he showed his cards, and you got to believe him. Don't try to recreate the narrative. Let them be exactly who they are. And the fact that his wife was in a neighboring town, like, what if she had got wind of who I was? Like, and then try to run up on me? I think about how nasty that could have been. And someone who would facilitate that type of energy, who would, it's not even for me. But thank you so much for watching. Kiki with me in the comments. This whole story time was a mess. I hope y'all stuck with me. Definitely let me know if you had an experience where you were dating someone who was in a relationship or they were married. Definitely let me know, because it's nasty out here. Stay safe. And post quarantine, we want to turn out, we want to date like we want to, and date like we mean it, with intention, and multi-date. And we're going to get to this bag, and we're going to level up. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope I see you in the next one.